amount of food that we can eat. Move on to the introduction of this anatomy. The digestive system consists of two components: the alimentary canal that starts from mouth and ends at the anus, which can be visualized here though, and the second thing are some accessory organs. Accessory organs like liver, pancreas, gallbladder and stuff. After the food is ingested, it can be processed there in stomach, which is a part of the upper GI tract, and then there will be like food will be digested in the small intestine. After that, the nutrients will be absorbed and the food will be released as the form of feces through anus. The goals for this understanding is to identify the organs and circular muscle of the digestive tract, to list the structures found and represent the section of the wall of the digestive tract, to recognize the accessory organs that are involved with the digestive system, and to describe the general function of each of the organ of the digestive system, to know how they work together as a unit of organ system. Now let's look at the wall of the digestive tract. A normal section of the digestive tract reveals four main layers. If you look at here inside, one of this layer is mucosa. If you look at here, it's given here, the layer is mucosa, which is a very layer inside, submucosa, muscularis and serosa. Serosa is the outermost layer, muscularis is right after that, submucosa is right after that, this one is submucosa, and finally mucosa, which is the innermost layer, which will be in contact with the lumen portion. Okay. The different regions of this digestive tract wall have unique structures that are related to their specific functionality. The mucosa is again subdivided into further three layers, okay, and actually 3 layers of different cells. Let's look at that. Those cells are known as the columnar epithelial cells because the structure is like a column. So we call them columnar epithelial cells. In this columnar epithelial cells, they build up the whole area known as the villi. If you look at here, the innermost layer gets folded just like a small projections, the large folds known as the villi. If you look at one of those projections, you will see those columnar epithelial cells that make these projections. Okay. Now here, this simple columnar epithelial cells, they're densely attached with each other along with some other cells known as goblet cells, which are some sort of secretory cells which start secreting mucus. A lamina propria is another region. If you look at here in this picture, it's written clearly. Lamina propria is a connective tissue layer that contains the blood as well as the lymphatic vessel, which kind of reaches to the top of this projection. So this is the lamina propria connective layer, contains the blood vessel as well as the lymphatics. And there is also a smooth muscle sheet called muscularis mucosa that is present in the base of all this structure. The mucosal epithelial normally functions in both secretion as well as the process of digestion of the substances, and it also involved in the process of absorption of nutrients. Here is a view of individual cell is given. You see, these cells are filled with so many sac-like structures, especially they have Golgi apparatus inside, vacuoles inside, because they are designed to absorb nutrients. Goblet cells that are present here, these are the goblet cells. These are secretory cells that start releasing mucus, okay, which is nothing but a hydrated mucin protein. They produce mucin proteins, they hydrate that, it converts into mucus. Well, the other mucosal epithelial cells secrete digestive fluids, as well as they have the property of absorbing the nutrients. There are other type of cells nearby to the goblet cells also. It's known as enteroendocrine cells. And these enteroendocrine cells, they start producing hormones. That's why they're known as the enteroendocrine, because they're enteric cells. Let me take a color. I should explain it with color. These are the enteroendocrine cells. These start making hormones that are required for the process of digestion. It's not exactly for the process of digestion process, but it also helps in the hunger control and a lot of other control issues of the digestive measures. Nutrients which are absorbed by the epithelial cells, they either move to this capillary or this lymphatic and then travel the rest of the part of the body. These mucosal epithelial cells are also mitotically active, so they can divide with the help of mitosis, cell division. So this structure is not permanent, it's not fixed, it may change. It actually gets changed almost like every 3 to 6 days. They produce new cells to replace the old cells, because those cells have continuous work of absorbing and the process of digestion. Okay. Now if you look at here, this muscularis mucosa, that is the layer. It's a very interesting structure actually. This muscularis mucosa have a double layered structure, and this double layer is to aid for the digestion as well as for the absorption by moving the mucosal villi. So this muscularis mucosa, you can't see it here. If you go back here, you will see the muscularis mucosa. This is the muscularis externa. Muscularis mucosa is this layer. This is the layer muscularis mucosa, just in the basement of the villi, and it is attached to the villi. So if I draw muscularis mucosa here, it's attached to almost like attached with the villi. This muscularis mucosa have two different layers, and with the help of these two different tissue layers, it can actually move the villi in different directions, different orientations. This movement, or wagging like movement, this movement can actually help this villi to interact with many different nutrient molecules at the same time, and so that it can absorb nutrients that can travel through this blood vessel and lymphatics. And there is another layer, remember here, muscularis externa. It contains again two sheets of muscle. One is a circular, another one is a longitudinal layer. Two types of layer you can see. That's why you see these ring-like structures in the middle. Now this is the structure. The fibers in the two layers, they arrange in the right angles to each other, and they provide structural support and as well as elasticity to the intestine. And this elasticity is very important for a process known as peristalsis. Okay, peristalsis and segmentation are produced by the contraction of the muscle of the intestine. And actually the muscle, if it's only one muscle longitudinal, this kind of contraction is not possible, because peristalsis means it will be a close contraction of the muscle. As you see, close contraction of the muscle in nearby areas that allows the food that is present to move forward to a specific direction. In this case, the food will be migrated from the esophagus, from the mouth towards the anus. That is the direction of the food movement. So we need both type of tissues. We need the longitudinal tissue as well as the circular tissue for this whole process to work. Okay. Now another specific region, if you look at this picture, you can see it is myenteric plexus. Myenteric plexus is a network of neurons that is present in the muscularis externa. If you see, it is very close with the communication with the submucosal plexus as well, and together with the two plexus they produce the enteric nervous system. And this enteric nervous system is very important because whenever the food is moving, our intestine should crosstalk between the brain and the intestine, and this crosstalk is mediated with the help of this nervous system that is actually present in myenteric plexus. The outermost layer of the digestive tract is the serosus, as we talked here, the serosa, right? This is also known as visceral peritoneum. Peritoneum is the outermost layer always. So this is a serous fluid producing serosa, which actually lubricates this whole intestine, and it reduces the friction of the digestive tract within the ventral body cavity. So it starts releasing all those lubricating compounds outside. Now this whole component of digestive tract, it is present in our body cavity, right? So there could be like friction between the other area of the body cavity, ventral body cavity actually, with the help of this with this digestive tract. Because once you eat things, once you drink a lot of water, the area is going to increase in volumetric size. So it may interact with the ventral portion of the body cavity, and that could be dangerous, that could be bad for our health. That can be prevented by the serosa. Now let's talk about the upper part of the gastrointestinal tract. The upper part of the GI tract involved with the process of ingestion, because it starts with mouth, ends, the upper part almost ends at the end of the stomach. That's what we call the upper part of our upper GI tract. Food start ingestion in the mouth, then inside the mouth chemical digestion take place, because there we have saliva, and saliva contains alpha amylase enzyme, which can break down starch and sugar. Okay. And also mechanical digestion takes place there, because we have teeth. With the help of that, with the help of teeth and tongue, we can break those food down into soft, round, saliva mixed content known as the bolus. Okay. You see the lining of the oral cavity and the pharynx is mostly made up with a specific type of squamous epithelial cell known as the stratified squamous epithelial cell. Okay. Stratified squamous epithelial cells, actually squamous epithelial mucosa, because all this esophagus line is covered with mucus to prevent the damage by the acid reflux. The partially digested bolus, because we can say the partially digestion of the bolus because it's mixed with amylase. This partially digested bolus of food is then moved from the mouth to the esophagus. Esophagus is the connective tube between the mouth and the stomach. Okay. Now, the transition of esophagus wall is slightly shown here from the start striated to the smooth muscle. The striated muscle are present in mouth region, but now we have a more of a smooth muscle, but its component of this esophagus is both striated muscle as well as smooth muscle. But when we go down to the stomach, you will see most of them made up with smooth muscle, completely, mostly made up with smooth muscle. And when the food enters stomach, it's involved with the chemical digestion, and the digestion take place in the stomach are mostly for proteins, okay, and a little amount of mechanical digestion take place as well. So these are the three major components of the upper GI: mouth, esophagus, this one, and stomach. These are the three components. Now let's talk a little bit about the stomach, which is one of the most important constituent of the alimentary canal. The stomach, if you look at the structure, the stomach is divided into 4 different sections. Starts with cardia, the beginning of the stomach; fundus, just after the cardia; body, which is the most of the part having a huge surface area; and pylorus, which is the end point of the stomach where it interacts with the duodenum. Now, if you look at here, there are different layers of muscles present. We have 3 types of layer. We have a longitudinal layer, you can see it here, straight lines; circular layer wrapping around the stomach; and oblique layer, which is a linear structure, but not like the longitudinal. 3 different layer of muscle is present, and these layers are very important for maintaining a tension and for fitting to the stress that is going to occur in the stomach, because stomach will contain the food, food will stay there for a while, and it will do the mechanical shearing of the food. Now here you can see, if you look at the muscles from the outermost side, what we can see is you can see that muscularis externa layer, that we can also saw earlier, that muscularis external layer of the stomach, it is unique because it carries these 3 different layers. And another very important structure of the stomach is this kind of folds, the inner layer folds of the stomach. Due to these folds, the stomach can increase its surface area, increase its size based on the amount of food it receives. Okay, these regions are known as rug, G-U-E, yes, sorry, G-A-E, rug. Rug are specific cleaves or this kind of folds that are internal folds that we saw in stomach. Okay, so stomach can expand due to its requirements. Once the food is mixed with the gastric juices, which are secreted by the stomach itself, the stomach is called all this food mixed with the gastric juices is known as the chyme. Remember, it's known as the chyme, which is then moved from the pylorus, which is this point, the end of the stomach, to the duodenum, into the small intestine, because this is the end of the upper GI. Once the duodenum starts, we call it the lower part of the GI tract, and that is the ultimate job of the food to be removed from the pylorus to the duodenum. Though there is a specific valve present known as the pyloric sphincter, we'll talk about that later. Let's move to the second part of this intestinal tract, that is the lower part of the GI or lower GI. Now, the second part of the gastrointestinal tract is the lower GI tract, or the lower part of the gastrointestinal tract or alimentary canal. It mainly composed of 2 different units, one of which we are seeing right now. First unit is the small intestine, and second is the large intestine. Okay, pardon for bad handwriting though. Small intestine and large intestine. Small intestine is a portion mainly, and actually if we combine both of them together as a lower GI tract, the majority of the chemical digestion process and actually all the nutrient absorption process take place in the small intestine. Okay, large intestine is the portion which carries the last undigested materials, convert them into feces and help them to be defecated outside. Okay, now if you look at the small intestine, this slide is about that small intestine structure. Small intestine is divided into 3 different parts, which are illuminated in this picture with this yellow, purple and pink color. Starts with duodenum, yellow color; jejunum, color is purple; and ileum, colored pink here. These are the three different regions of the small intestine. And if you look at the structure of the small intestine, it's very much similar that of a structure we saw in stomach, as per the tissue layer or histological structure proceeds, but a little difference as well. You know, in this case, we also see three different layers in the inner wall of the small intestine, and three different layers of the tissues, longitudinal, circular, as well as the third layer. But the unique feature about the lower intestine, the small intestine, is to have a finger-like projection known as villi or villi. As you can see here, you see these finger-like projections all around this internal surface of the small intestine. This villi is to increase the surface area, because the job of small intestine will be to absorb nutrients. So the more surface area they have, the better absorption they can do. Okay. Now this villi, if you zoom into villi, one of those villi, you see the villi is further divided into small fragments. These smaller, even smaller fragments are known as microvilli, because these are the constituents of the villi, right? That is the part of the small intestine. And this intestine aids the body for defenses against different pathogens by secreting antimicrobial compounds as well as antibodies, which are also known as immunoglobulins. Those immunoglobulins which are produced there in small as well as in large intestine, they also produce those antibiotic compounds that can fight against pathogen. Though in the large intestine, a lot of healthy, good bacteria resides, and that is very, very important for our living. Now let's look at the large intestine, which is almost the last part of the alimentary canal. It also consists of several fragments. It starts with, you say, ascending colon, transverse colon, and descending colon. These are the three different parts that we see here. Okay. The job for this large intestine is to hold those undigested foods, do a water absorption, and then finally conversion of those undigested food into feces, and then release them through anus. And the partial undigested foods, they'll store, the feces will store for some time in the rectum. And there's another unit called cecum, which is attached to a specific portions, which is an extended region known as appendix, the function of which is moved now. That means which is not required now, but somehow in the evolutionary history they have some function in the digestion, they played some digestive role. Now here you see in those large intestine as well as small intestine, what they have mainly in regions of ileum, in the small intestine, they have lymphoid nodes. In the ileum, they have lymphoid nodes, and those nodes are known as Peyer's patches. Peyer's patch. Those Peyer's patch are filled with leukocytes. Leukocytes means white blood cells, which are the immunogenic cells. They can help to fight against infection. Okay. Now, in the large intestine's job, besides the storing of the undigested food and convert them into feces, the other job is to absorption of water and salt, and also absorption of vitamin K. There are also other bacteria present there. The healthy bacteria I talked about, they start producing a lot of vitamin K and then supply the vitamin K to our body. The large, as you see, there are three bands of smooth muscle again, called the tinea coli. It's caused the outer portion of the colon to be packed into the pockets called haustra. That is the structure. That's a unique structure though. Haustra is a region where they are properly embedded in the body so that it's remain attached with the outer portion of the body. Otherwise, rest of the portion of this digestive tract is not linked in any way. Okay, they're separate from the rest of the ventral body cavity. Okay. Now we will see some other accessory part of the digestive tract that also helps in the process of digestion and absorption of the food. One of such thing is sphincters. Sphincters regulate the passage of food from one region of the digestive tract to the next, and then finally it helps for the feces to get out of the body. So the role of sphincter in the process of controlling the digestion is huge. As you can see in this left hand picture, the sphincters are present every different branch points of the digestive tract. Here is the sphincters of the digestive tract divided into mainly 6 different sphincters we can see here. One of the sphincters are related to esophagus, known as the esophageal sphincter, known as the upper esophageal sphincter, UES. Okay, and then lower esophageal sphincter, LES. Okay, both of them are physiological sphincters. Then at the end of the stomach, if you see here, at the end of the stomach, the junction between duodenum and stomach and the pylorus of the stomach, there is a sphincter that controls the release of the treated, mechanically and chemically treated compound in the stomach to take entry into the duodenum. Okay, there comes the role of the pyloric sphincter. And then it comes down to ileocecal sphincter, which is a circular smooth muscle type of cell. It's not any kind of physiological structure. It's a smooth muscle cell in circular fashion, both this pyloric sphincter as well as ileocecal sphincter. Ileocecal sphincter is also found, and you see here ileocecal sphincter found in the interaction, the junction between the small intestine with the large intestine. So as I mentioned, these sphincters are present in all of the branch points. And then we have internal anal sphincter and we have external anal sphincter. Both are present in the anus area that controls the movement and release of the feces outside the body. Okay, the upper esophagus sphincter prevents the air from entering into the esophagus. The lower esophageal sphincter prevents the acid reflux, which can go from stomach to the esophagus, that can cause the damage to the esophagus, or acidity is the prime problem with this acid reflux. Pyloric sphincter, this one, regulates the passage of chyme from the stomach to take entry to the duodenum. The ileocecal valve controls and regulates the passage of chyme from ileum to the large intestine. And then the last two types, like the internal and external anal sphincter. The internal anal sphincter, or IAS, when it is relaxed, it produces the urge to defecate. When it relaxes, defecation occurs. And external anal sphincter, when it relaxed, it allows for the defecation. So both of them needs to be relaxed for the process of defecation. Now let's move to the last part of the discussion, which are accessory glands. There are several accessory glands which are not directly involved with the gastrointestinal tract but plays very important role. One of such is salivary gland. We have normally three types of gland that are important: salivary gland, liver, and pancreas. In the salivary glands, they moisten food, cleanse and protect the mouth, and it produces alpha amylase, known as the salivary amylase, because the same enzyme is also secreted by pancreas, known as pancreatic amylase. This amylase enzyme helps in the digestion of starch and other carbohydrate molecules. It can break down starch. The second one is the liver. This is probably one of the most important organ of all. From the perspective of digestion itself, it is very, very important because it produces bile, which actually emulsifies the fat, because without the help of the release of this bile or bile salts, we cannot be able to digest fat, because this bile neutralizes that by emulsifying the fat molecules and break them down and increase their surface area, so that other lipase enzyme can actually break down those lipid molecules. Now this bile that is secreted, sometimes the extra bile that is released by the liver, is stored in a small sac nearby the liver, which is attached to the region of the duodenum area. That part, that small area, small section, is known as the gallbladder, which stores this bile. Okay. And then third one is the pancreas. The arrangement of liver, pancreas, gallbladder is very close to each other, and they're all connected because they have a simple single duct system through which all those necessary enzymes are released into the duodenum. Here you see in pancreas, they have a main proteolytic enzymes to be produced. It releases different host of digestive enzymes into the duodenum with the help of the same pancentric, the same type of duct that we use. The duct, when it's involved and engaged inside the pancreas, is known as the pancreatic duct, but that is the duct has the branch annulated with the gallbladder as well. Okay, it also produces bicarbonate. Bicarbonate can neutralize the acidity of the chyme that is released right after the treatment in the stomach. That is another important priority, to make the chyme neutralized before using them in the intestine. Otherwise, intestinal cells may have some problem with this acidity. Stomach cells are designed to sustain that acidity. So that, in a sense, are the anatomical overview of the digestive system. I hope this video helped you. If you like this video, I want you to watch all the sequential videos of the digestive system. It will help you to understand the whole process of anatomy as well as the physiology of the digestion in human. Thank you. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel to get more videos like that, and share this video with your friends.